How's it going, guys? I'm Connor from Running Warehouse.
And I'm John from Running Warehouse, and we're here to give you a full review on the completely revamped Adidas Adizero Boston 12, a shoe that's had quite a history. Now, mine only begins with the 11, but Connor, you've pretty much been around since the beginning of the Adizero Boston series. Can you talk us through some of the interesting history with this shoe?
Yeah, you know, the Boston series has come a long way since the first version, really the Boston that started it all, the Boston 1. The Boston series always was that shoe that had some philosophies that came from a traditional racing flat, but it had a little bit more cushioning, slightly more stable upper. It really was a lightweight performance shoe that could do a lot of things really well. Then we saw the Boston 5 come out, and it featured that boost compound, revamped the shoe, gave it a little bit more bouncy feel. Few more iterations came through. We saw some new technologies in the market with super shoes, higher stacks, and then we saw the Boston 10. And when the Boston 10 came out, it really was almost a completely new shoe. It got max stack height, it had an energy rod system. A lot of people questioned, was this still a Boston? And I agreed, it was a very different underfoot experience. We saw an upper update in version 11, and now with version 12, aesthetically, it looks similar to the past two versions, but I think it goes back a little bit to the core philosophy of those original Bostons of fast and lightweight, taking some of those efficiency benefits with that high stack height, and now we've got almost a new era of the Boston.
So as we enter into this new era of the Boston, let's talk about our on-foot experiences. And there's no better place to start than in the midsole, where we have completely revamped setup, starting with a bottom layer of Lightstrike 2.0 that's much softer than the Lightstrike we saw in the 11. On top of that, we have a nice thick layer of LightstrikePRO, even more than in the last version. And sandwiched in between there, we have full-length energy rods that's similar to the setup in the Adios Pro 3. These combine to make my on-foot experience really fun and enjoyable, pretty much for any workout I took it on. The foam felt nice and soft, but not too soft where I was sinking in. It had just that little bit of firmness that I like in a daily trainer. The energy rods really helped with stability, which I thought was nice for that kind of technology. I was able to pick up the pace. The rods gave that snappiness and worked with the Lightstrike 2.0 and LightstrikePRO to make it very responsive. But since this isn't a full-length carbon fiber plate, I found it to be more versatile and made those daily runs more enjoyable. Now, I was most impressed by the overall comfort and protection the midsole offered. I tried to put in as many miles as I could in this shoe before this review. I got about 60 miles in a short period of time with not a lot of rest, and I really liked how protected and fresh my legs were feeling after each run and then the days following those runs. I was able to really appreciate what the midsole offered, and this is a shoe that I will continue to reach for.
Well, John, I also really enjoyed the midsole, and the first thing I noticed was the stack height. We still have a lot of cushioning underfoot, but it is 3 millimeters lower, so it feels a little bit more nimble and a little bit lighter weight. You also noticed that Lightstrike 2.0. I think with the last version, that original Lightstrike compound was just a little bit too firm. I found that you needed to get at least 50, sometimes 100 miles in the shoe to break it in. Right when you put this shoe on your feet, it feels soft, it feels comfortable, it feels ready to go. Then we've got the LightstrikePRO. You can't forget about that. And I said, I felt like the last version could have used more. Now we've got a lot of Lightstrike in the forefoot. Basically, the whole forefoot is LightstrikePRO. It feels even bouncier, it feels softer, and it works really well with that 2.0. You get to feel that super foam even more because the whole shoe just feels softer. As for the energy rod setup, I'm glad that they took the inspiration that we saw in the Adios Pro 3. You get that full rod design that feels a little bit faster, and I think with the lower durometer foam of this shoe, that full-length plate really helps to stabilize the foam and feel comfortable.
Yeah, a lot to love about the midsole. So moving on down to the outsole, we see that trusty, reliable, and durable Continental rubber that has a little bit more coverage than in the last version. Obviously, I had no issues with grip and traction with this outsole. And given the miles that I put on it, there still seems to be no signs of wear, which is always good to see in that daily trainer where you want it to last miles and miles on end. I will say, I do wonder if there's room to maybe trim some weight of this shoe, as the rubber is very thick. And when I was taking it on those speed workouts, it felt a little heavy, and I was just thinking that it could save a little bit of weight somewhere.
Well, the shoe did lose an ounce over its last version, so Adidas is doing what it can to help keep weight at a minimum, but I agree. I think it'd be interesting to see if this shoe lost even a little bit more outsole rubber. It'll help keep weight down, but I think whenever you take rubber away, it is gonna come in at the expense of less durability. This shoe really has fantastic grip and durability. Put in the miles, and really this is gonna be a workhorse that you can get hundreds of miles in without any issues.
Yeah, that's a fair point. You're gonna want as many miles as you can in a shoe like this. So moving on up to the upper, I will say it's the area where I really had my only two major complaints, starting with the lacing system. Now this may seem like a small thing to a lot of runners, but for me, I care a lot about being able to lace up my shoes and not having to think about it. With this shoe, not only does it require a double knot, but a tight double knot. Several times on my runs, I had to stop and retie them. The other issue I had was with the heel counter. There's this firm plastic piece in the back that I really felt was abrasive against my heel. It didn't cause bruising, but it was uncomfortable enough where I would second guess whether or not I would take this beyond 12 to 14 miles. I did appreciate the soft engineered mesh. I found it to be nicely snug around my foot and very breathable. And finally, this tongue was really nice and soft, and it made for a comfortable lock-in.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on the heel. I also had some small issues, not major, but that firmer piece just maybe wasn't the most comfortable. And some of these stiffer elements on the sides of the heel just weren't quite to my liking, but once I started running, I didn't really notice it too much. As you move into the midfoot, you get a nice, snug, and secure fit. This new lacing system really keeps you locked in place. And then the tongue, it's a floating tongue design, so it feels very seamless on foot, very natural. As you move up into the forefoot, there's a little bit room for wiggle room, but at the same time, it's fairly low, fairly shallow, so it does feel fairly performance-oriented. Overall, the fit felt good, it's breathable. It really has that fast, lightweight feel with just enough support to go those longer miles.
Overall, the Boston 12 represents a huge upgrade over the previous version. It's a shoe that can do everything really well. As for what I will use it for, I'm definitely gonna be pulling this out on those daily runs, longer efforts. The midsole setup just really offers that long-lasting comfort and protection that I look for in a versatile daily trainer. While I did enjoy this shoe on speed days, I will say that I did a speed workout in the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3s after I did a workout in this shoe, and the performance experience was pretty stark, where I found the Endorphin Speeds to just be a lot lighter and a lot faster. So I may not grab the Boston 12s on a true speed workout day, but I can definitely see this landing in any runner's rotation and a shoe that's gonna see a lot of action.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I feel like this really is a shoe that can do pretty much everything really well. I put it in the same category as maybe a shoe like the SC Trainer or the Mach X, shoes that have super foam, have a plate in it, but it's versatile enough to use for daily training or workout day. I will say I find myself now going more towards a true super shoe for workout day, a little bit faster, a little bit lighter. But if you want something that has a little bit more to it, has a slightly more daily training oriented feel, maybe not gonna beat you up as much as a super shoe, I feel like a shoe like the Boston 12 will do really well. I found myself where I use this shoe the most was probably long run day when I wanted something a little bit faster, or maybe even daily training when I started getting well under 7-minute pace, when you want something efficient but also has the cushioning to go any distance.
So there you have it. With new foam, even more super foam, and a new energy rod system in place, I think it's safe to say that this next era of the Boston is gonna be the best one yet. If you're looking to get this shoe on feet, you can find it here at Running Warehouse.